Some lights on.
There we go.
Yo, happy 4th of July, Nick.
Happy 4th of July.
Woo! Day celebrating our independence from that tiny island.
Just been making myself a cup of tea.
Making
myself a cup of tea, John. You didn't get it all in Boston Harbor.
Well, that wasn't Independence Day. Independence Day was. Gosh. Anyway, that was well before that. Crazy.
Happy 4th of July, John, to you and to all our American cousins.
And thank you for the great legacy. We obviously owe our judicial system and laws to the English history of jurisprudence, and seriously, we I don't know if we're American cousins or American grandchildren. It is interesting that the UK went through all sorts of political reforms in the early 19th century, and is not really recognizable as the government that we separated ourselves from.
No.
And the United States obviously has gone through changes too, through amendments to the Constitution and just facts of life on the ground. But I believe the United States is the oldest constitutional republic in the world. We've gone from the new guys on the block to, Can
you believe you can actually go to university and study the British Constitution? I know we don't have one, but it's a set of unwritten assumptions that you can study and gain qualifications in.
Seriously, it is a mystery. I mean, I've just read Dickens' novels about the law courts and the morass of British law because of
the Court of Chancery, which we no longer have, thank goodness.
All right. Anyway,
okay.
I've got big plans today. I don't know about you guys, but we actually have a party on this day. Okay, man. I'm out here in the shed with all my friends here. You're the squirrels and birds there, but.
Have you closed the shed doors? We don't want to hear the fireworks going off.
You won't hear those until it doesn't get dark in Oklahoma until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and so setting off the fireworks. Those won't start until almost midnight. Now you could set them off in my shed, and you could have something spectacular inside my dark, my little hole in the wall here. But
so John's in Oklahoma City on the 4th of July, sat there in his hot and stuffy shed. I'm over here in South Wales on just a normal everyday Friday. Nothing special's happening beside my beautiful lake, because we are, by way of celebrating J.K. Rowling's 60th anniversary, her Kanreki, we are spending some time in her metaphor for her creative process. So John's shed, craft and artistry to adapt and shape and guide her stories. And from my lake, the mysterious creature will hand her an idea formed from her unconscious thoughts, her unresolved issues and her life experiences. And we are, once a day, we are going to talk about some lake inspiration and some shed artistry from each of her published works. Which ones today, John?
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I think I've got. Yes. Yeah, here we go. This one's got tabs in it. This has suffered the most of all of my things. The children used to laugh. They used to steal these sections and take them off into other rooms to read. But as I showed you yesterday in Chamber of Secrets, they've gone back and colored in all of the illustrations. This is done by my son, the iconographer. Some of his first drawings were coloring in Marie Grandpre's pictures.
And you have a US published edition. This, I think, was the last edition where there was a different publication date between the US and the UK, caused largely because of globalization. So even though there's only a few months difference between the UK publication and the US publication, all of the American fans were going on to Amazon and internet sellers in the UK and getting their English language editions being shipped across. There was no Trump tax at that point, so all they had to do was pay the shipping, and they could read the book earlier than their friends and colleagues.
There's no aluminum in it. There's no aluminum in that stuff.
As I understand it, there's not even any aluminium. So this was very bad business. I don't think Bloomsbury were too cross about it, but there's very bad business for Scholastic. So for every publication after that, there was a simultaneous US, Australia, Canada as well. Australia, Canada, US, UK, all published the following novels on the same day.
On the same day, so not quite simultaneous.
No,
because on Greenwich time, you got the books first.
Yes.
We had to wait, which obviously had some fun in the later books when people would read the last chapter and then tell their friends in Los Angeles and destroy it for all the people waiting in line. Anyway,
that would have been me, John. I would have read the acknowledgements, and I'd be outside shouting, "She thanked Sean Harris."
And I would have been, "Oh, how dare you! Spoiler!" Gosh, that's the first time I heard the expression "spoiling" for people that would share details of the books.
So a very slight digression. That's sort of happening now on Twitter. So for every publication after Ink Black Heart, I have to go dark on social media, because there are people out there with a grudge against the author or against the fandom that will go to the end of the book, find out who the killer is, and then they will try and see who's been following and talking about the series and try and spoil the book for them. So I go dark until I finish it.
I mean, we talk about that as if these are malevolent actors. There's also just simply the incompetence of Rowling Incorporated. They always try to give us 2 or 3 chapters in advance to really to prime the pump for sales on the day of. There haven't been any midnight releases that I know of for Cormoran Strike, but inevitably, it's like the Apple books, madness, where they let out the first 3 chapters, but the people that are adept at working Apple books are always able to get, just by doing word searches, able to get into the last chapters of the book. And they've been very good. I mean, one person who will go unnamed has been very good about alerting them so they'll pull it down before the whole book is published online. Really, the Cormoran Strike rollouts have been almost uniformly Keystone Cops comedy. Never really been done very well, but boy, it was an incredible operation during Harry Potter. People stealing books and I mean,
there was a case in the UK of armed robbery at the printers, actually, at Clay's printers.
I'll be talking a little bit about Career of Evil today, but I was flying to the Chestnut Hill Harry Potter conference the year that Career of Evil came out, and I went to the airport bookstore, and we were all waiting for Career of Evil. It's going to come out like 3 days after the conference. I went into the bookstore, and there was Robert Galbraith's Career of Evil. And they had arrived the first of the month with the books that were going to go up that month at the airport bookstore. And they had no idea who Robert Galbraith was. They didn't know this was the latest novel from J.K. Rowling, and so they gave it a pretty prominent display. They'd been given a lot of the books to put out, and so I bought 2 copies. and took it to the Chestnut Hill conference. And I remember Louise Freeman just being aghast, that I had a copy of the book. And I didn't spoil it for anybody, but I was able to read it, before the book was actually released. That never would have happened during the Harry Potter releases. Just everybody knew that book was coming out. Now, The Prisoner of Azkaban, I think it's the last one before there's. I know, we got my family. We read Harry Potter that a friend had given us, and then I bought the next two. I read them aloud, and then we waited for only had to wait a couple of weeks until Goblet of Fire came out. And all my children dressed up, except for my youngest, who was just about to be born. He was born in August that year. We joined the madness. We joined the Generation Hex, as they called it. My children are proud members. Anyway, sorry, too much about me. Rowling at this point is rolling along, right? I mean, she's I think she's met Neil Murray at this point.
Yes. She's purchased a house. She has a very nice townhouse in a leafy suburb of Edinburgh. She's getting some press intrusion issues at the moment.
Doorstepping her, right?
Yeah, they're doorstepping her. They're checking the bins. At this stage, her daughter is still going to state education schools. She herself is still using the NHS. So she's comfortable. She's secure. But she's still an ordinary person at this point.
Not for long. Not for long. I mean, she does some video interviews at this point, and she looks older than she does now at 60. This is a woman who has clearly been through it. And really the amazing transformation that she makes does happen with the publication of Goblet and her marriage to Neil Murray. Anyway, but she's already being pigeonholed at this point. There's only two stories about her that are being told at this point. The Cinderella story of the woman on the dole who writes the successful book, and that she's a witch. The Christian controversy now has legs in the UK and in the United States, and every story about the new book coming out, and that has to check those two boxes: that Rowling Cinderella aspect and her Camilla DeVille aspect. There's just this horrible woman corrupting the morals of children. Anyway, it's also such a change. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's jump in the lake first. Let's cool off. It's July 4th. Everybody out there with watermelon, corn on the cob. What is our lake event today? What pillar? Or you always talk about pillars in the lake. I don't know where you live. You have pillars in the lake. I mean, why don't you talk about the buoy in the lake or
I don't want our language to come between us, but that, as is so often, if there's a letter or a vowel in a word, you Americans have to pronounce it. Over here, we call those things boys.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean,
no, not that kind of boy, John.
The boys in the lake. That sounds dicey to me.
However, as far as I'm aware, we both say pillars are pillars. So I'm going to maintain my pillars to avoid having to say buoy.
Okay.
So
you'll forgive me for saying both L's and pillars. All right.
That's fine. Yes, no, that's fine. As long as you don't use the Welsh double L pronunciation, which is
no risk. No risk.
Okay. So I'm gonna go. Yesterday I went for key relationship. I'm gonna pretend that today I'm gonna go for one of the 7 ages of Joe. In the first book, the age of Joe I wanted to look at was education. In this age of Joe, I want to look at post-education pre-Portugal, which is the time she spent predominantly in London, working as a temporary secretary in South London. As you can imagine, not a very well-off area. Nobody can afford to live in a very well-off area unless you happen to be married to Freddie Bastigui. And I'm going to talk a little bit about an inanimate character as well. So one of the beloved images from Prisoner of Azkaban was the night bus. Now, you may not realize, as a country boy, I didn't really realize that the night bus is an actual thing. So
it's a double-decker bus that squeezes between cars.
Practically. So in London, the most popular form of mass public transport is the Underground. So it's our version of the subway. But that stops operating at midnight. Huh. So what do you do if you're in London after midnight and you've got to get home? Now, you can get a taxi, but they're expensive, and you won't get a taxi from the West End to go south of the river if your life depended on it, because they're waiting for all the higher paid fares around the West End and Mayfair and the nice areas of London. But what you can do is you can get a night bus. Now, the night bus is the London Transport's bus service that operates between 11 p.m. in the evening and 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, of course, there's less demand, so there are less buses in the night bus service, which means the routes are longer. They sort of zigzag around London before they get to your final destination. They're relatively cheap. They're quite popular for people that have achieved an advanced stage of refreshment. And they're also popular for homeless people because the tickets are relatively rare. The route takes a long time to get to the terminus, so you can be on there for a long time. So it's quite common to see along the back rows of seats on the upper and lower deck, people have made beds. They've rolled out blankets. They're in their sleeping bags. They've got little fluffy pillows. Does that sound familiar, John?
Yes, it does. It does.
So I can imagine a very young Jo Rowling is out with her friends in the West End. She gets separated, or there's an argument, or she loses track of the time and she's waiting outside the Underground station. She's just realised that the last train has gone. She sat down there on the curb and this night bus appears with beds at the back and crazy characters that are talking gibberish. And I like to think that's where, you know, at a low point, she's feeling frustrated. She doesn't know what's going to happen. There's the night bus. And on the little name at the front of the bus, there'll be Clapham Junction. That's my route to get home.
Wow. Okay. And this is the period in which she's inspired to write Harry Potter. This is the really the dead spot in Lake studies.
Yeah.
We know she spent a lot of time in museums. We know she was employed by Amnesty. We don't really know about her employment in Manchester. We know next to nothing about the boyfriend of 7 years off and on, Michael.
Yeah.
And yet we know that somewhere in there, she was inspired to write Harry Potter because of some unresolved crisis in her life about which we know next to nothing. It wasn't that she was almost run over by the night bus, but it is good to know that at that time of inspiration, she may have been a customer for the night bus.
Yes, I like to think so. I think we're only really because, you know, I've made this little story up in my head just because the London night bus service just fits so well into what she's written about the night bus in Harry Potter. and as it actually exists. So I find it hard to believe that something similar to that didn't happen to her.
I don't want to steal your thunder here, but it just
Yeah.
occurs to me. Is there any chance that her grandparents may have taken her on the night bus?
I don't think so. So
Because
I think
aren't the drivers of the bus named after?
yeah.
Is it one of the?
I think they're both her grandfathers, aren't they? Ernie and I forget. Yes, I think they're both her grandfathers. But I think the point at which that they would still be alive, I find it difficult to believe that she'd be out in London after 11 o'clock. And honestly speaking, I joke about the night bus. Any young lady of my acquaintance, I would say they're taking unreasonable risks with their person by using this service. It is like the night bus in Harry Potter. It is the transport option of the desperate. You have any other method of transit, you don't go by the night bus.
Yeah, why anybody who is a wizard wouldn't apparate is a curiosity to me. But anyway, that's yeah, in London today. Yeah, but let's not go into current events. I mean, that's fascinating. I'm almost looking forward to my next trip to the UK, just so I can catch the night bus with you, Nick. Stay late at the museum looking at Gainsborough's paintings and then come out and ride the night bus. Is it my turn?
It's your turn, John. What have we got in the shed today?
Again, I think I mentioned this in yesterday's, the day before July 4th, that I think that a lot of our listeners, our Rolling Studies podcast, who number in the we're well over 500 now. They're Cormoran Strike fans.
Yeah,
they're not coming here for Harry Potter stuff. And so we're starting off this whole review with Harry Potter, and imagine them just saying, next. Let's just wait until John and Nick get to something that I'm interested in. So I thought I would begin the whole the tool I want to talk about here is parallelism, or chiasmus in one of its offshoots. I'll talk at length at some point, probably in Goblet. That's tomorrow. About the chiastic structure, the A, B, C, D, C, B, A structure of the Harry Potter novels, and how each one of the books is a ring per Mary Douglas. But we have something really curious that in 2014, when the Silkworm came out, I noticed that the first two books of the Cormoran Strike series seem to have a lot in common with the first two Harry Potter things. That the opposite number inside the books seem to be telling a similar story. We have this orphan in Cuckoo's Calling that is adopted and becomes this supermodel, and that's what we read about in Harry Potter. The first book is about this orphan and his miserable existence, and then is becoming the boy who lived, coming to know that he's the boy who lived. And since that time, since that discovery, I've continued to write about it. I think I may have tapped out with Goblet of Fire and Lethal White. But people like Patricia Baker and certainly Louise Freeman have really explored this in great depth, so that all of the 7 Cormoran Strike books that we have, which at this point is 7, and their parallels with their equal number in the Harry Potter series, has been very well explored. And it's a bizarre thing that Rowling has seemed to be writing a parallel series. We call it PSI, the parallel series idea. And Career of Evil is, the third Cormoran Strike novel is written in playful parallel with Prisoner of Azkaban. So I just want to talk about that today. I'm going to put up a couple of posts. There's a Reading, Writing, Rolling episode before the trans wars had them evict me from that show, in which Karen Kabarla and Louise Freeman and Katie McDaniel and I talked about the Harry Potter and Cormoran Strike parallels. And I hope you'll put that link up, Nick, as well as the career and prisoner post I did at Hogwarts Professor that has all of the posts. You can if you want to explore this idea, because no one's explained it. Rowling's been asked about it. It's in the Barmy Army Twitter interview she did, and she's never responded. She just won't talk about this parallel series idea. But it became such a thing. I mean, Louise Freeman, in 2014, when I brought this up, Louise immediately said, well, that means that book 4, remember at this point we were on book 2, she says book 4 of the series will have the background of the London Olympics because Goblet of Fire has the Triwizard Tournament in its background. And I thought, that doesn't work in terms of the years. Well, it was a bullseye. That's exactly what Lethal White has as its backdrop, is the 2012 London Olympic Games. And my favorite prediction from this theory was Beatrice Groves, our friend at Oxford, predicted that Strike would sing the song Trelawney in Troubled Blood, because of the Trelawney. It's just really an amazing. I don't know. Sometimes I think B. Groves actually is Robert Galbraith or something, because the things that she comes up with. But this theory is a pointer to one of Rowling's key tools or tool keys. Anyway, this is part of her artistry. She takes the stuff out of the lake, and then she creates a chiastic structure of some kind, or writing in parallel. So I'm gonna just real quickly. Here's 7 points between Career of Evil. So I think the worst of the Cormoran Strike novel. Some people say it's the best, which always astonishes me. But and Prisoner of Azkaban, which many people consider to be their favorite Harry Potter novel. Okay, first of all, a notorious escaped criminal stalks the protagonist. The storyline of Prisoner is pretty much, as Louise Freeman put it, there's an escaped convict out there trying to kill Harry. Career of Evil, there's a killer out there trying to kill Robin. The Hogwarts faculty and Ministry of Magic do everything they can to protect Harry, but doggone it, he does what he wants and winds up in a face-to-face confrontation with Sirius Black. Strike and the Metropolitan Police do all they can to convince Robin to stay out of harm's way, but sure enough, more than once, she wound up in harm's way with near-fatal results. Number 2, The Great Departure, or Thumb on the Hand. Now this, in 2001, a friend of mine who followed writer wannabe conversation bulletin boards on the internet told me that there was something like a consensus after the publication of Prisoner of Azkaban that Rowling had folded under the pressure of the success of her first 2 outings and outsourced the plotting and writing of her 3rd book in the series. I mean, and this was not illogical, okay? Prisoner was just that different from Stone and Chamber. That much more complex, engaging, mature in tone and delivery. These writers could not believe that a writer could make this sort of quantum leap that Rowling had made in such a short time. I'd call that misogyny. But anyway, Career is that different from the first 2 Strike novels, certainly, and from the next 2 as well. If the 7 books we have now are Fingers on Your Hand and Your Next Hand, Career is the thumb. Unlike Prisoner, it's not that Career is so much more involved and challenging, quite the opposite. Cuckoo and Silkworm, especially Silkworm, compare favorably with anything P.D. James wrote for intensity, intertextuality, metafiction, not to mention psychology. Career, in contrast, is a second edition of Ian Rankin's Black and Blue with all its violence, rock and roll references, noir touches. There's a reason that Career is the book even Strike fans do not like to revisit as a rule. I mentioned there are exceptions, namely that Rowling, having lost her struggle not to cross the line into violence porn. She mentioned in an interview that there was so much violence against women in that book that she worried that it was violence porn. Check that box, Joe. That was miserable. Number 3, loss of home due to the inciting incident. Okay, the inciting incident that gets the ball rolling in Prisoner is Harry's loss of control at the dinner table with Aunt Marge. Aunt Marge, right? Both Margaret Thatcher, that's what the bulldog is about, right? Is she representing the horrible person that Margaret Thatcher is in Joe Rowling's mind, and Joe's frightening relative in Little Women is also an Aunt Marge. Harry blows Aunt Marge up like the self-inflated person that she is, shades of Dutter's tail and stone, and Harry has to leave Privet Drive post-haste, right? The night bus appears out of nowhere, and we're off on Harry's strangest adventure to that point. Shift to Career. The delivery of a human leg to Strike's office in a package addressed to Robin starts the show in Career, and sure enough, Strike has to abandon his home above the office for quite some time at Nick and Ilsa's home. The reporters of Fleet Street are not quite Dementors, but Strike does all he can to avoid them. Number 4, the appearance of the long-imprisoned criminal as an old friend. Now, Noel Brockbank was alluded to in Cuckoo's Calling, I think, a la Black and Stone, but it is Shanker, whom Strike calls in Cuckoo, but does not name, who plays Sirius's part in Career. Strike's stepbrother, of sorts, his psychological shadow, really, terrifies Robin one day by appearing unannounced in the agency office, clicking his fingers, when Cormoran was out. His name is a reference to his facility with an ad hoc knife fashioned by prisoners, a shank, and Black in Prisoner tears up Ron's bed with a blade in murderous pursuit of Wormtail. Just as Black, when revealed by Harry to be his godfather in Prisoner, becomes almost instantly his best mate across generations, so Robin, once she's over PTSD on facing him alone in Career, turns to him for help in her secret plan to rescue Alice's children from Noel Brockbank. The finish of Strike 3, in which Shanker helps Strike subdue Lang, get a car, drive to Massam for the wedding, is also reminiscent of Harry and Sirius's adventures and near-death experiences at the end of Prisoner. Okay, number 5. This is the one I like the most. The biggest point of correspondence in the two books, besides the parallel storylines of point 1, is in the information drops about the larger storyline we get in both of the book 3s. In Prisoner, the terrible trio overhear the Minister of Magic telling an audience of adults the story of Black's betrayal of the Potters and his murder of poor Peter Pettigrew in front of many witnesses. That big reveal, of course, is both corrected and supplemented by the principals themselves in the Shrieking Shack confrontation of Pettigrew, Wormtail, Scabbers by his old mates Mooney and Padfoot. Readers are thrust into the overarching story of Harry's point of origin in Voldemort's killing of his parents and failed attempt to murder him. We finally, get some more backstories than, the Dark Lord is a bad guy. Career, likewise, features Strike reflecting as if in a pensieve on his mother's death. He tours the neighborhood, stops at the building where she died, while recalling their nightmare existence with Jeff Whittaker, her second husband. Whittaker himself appears to Strike ex machina out of the back of a van, smoke coming out, and undercover Robin when she was speaking with his de facto sex slave. The mystery of Lita Strike's supposed suicide for extended periods threatens in Career to whelm the novel in hand puzzles for the reader's attention. It's the first time we really get the overarching backstory thrust to the front of the story. These data dumps expand the story scale by adding real depth to the overarching mystery dimension of the series. Remember, Rowling in her two series, Cormoran Strike and Harry Potter, is telling a self-contained novel that has a beginning, middle, and an end, satisfying climax, and she's moving you forward in the overarching story where it's a 7-part story. well, or a 10-part story that so far we only have 7 parts. Rowling has denied a career that she was writing a series, which was funny. After strike 3, she had to give that up as a ridiculous sham, which she did with a wave of her hand. Oh yeah, I had to say that. I wonder if we can expect the same treatment of her more than 7 book pledges if Strike and Robin die in strike 7. They didn't, obviously, right? The way Castor and Pollux do at the end of their myth. I mentioned the knife. Sirius Black slashes his way past the fat lady painting at the entrance to the Gryffindor common room, threatens Ron Weasley with his blade, cuts up the boys' pillow sheets and bed hangings in search of scabbards. Why he doesn't just steal one of the boys' wands and give it a good Accio Wormtail, we're not gonna know. Black's murderous madness takes a significant part of its intensity from his use of a long knife. Shanker, as noted, is good with the blade. He whips it out in his attempt to subdue Brockbank when Robin calls for his help. The rugby player just runs right over the smaller man to make his escape. The real stays with the blade, though, in career is, of course, Donnie Lang, who literally butchers his victims, cuts these women into pieces and stuffs trophies in his refrigerator. Did I mention the violence porn? This is the violence porn. And he even tortured his first wife with a knife so brutally that she's unable to have children. Unlike Black, Lang is a convicted criminal who spent a long period in jail for madhouse behaviors he really did commit, in a mirror image reversal of the prisoner plot. This inversion, as Louise Freeman pointed out, is the inside-out parallel correspondence that works as well as a point-to-point match. And number 7, the real bad guy escapes. This is also a Louise Freeman point from that 2014 podcast, which I hope Nick will give you the link to. In Prisoner, Harry and Hermione, on their time turner rescue mission to set Sirius free from the tower using Buckbeak, they have to choose not to pursue Wormtail as he escapes when Lupin goes lupine. They understand intuitively that without Pettigrew, there will be no way to prove Black's innocence. But they do the right thing, and they accomplish their daring-do mission on the Hippogriff's back. Truly, Harry, you're your father's son. Robin, something of a funhouse mirror reflected parallel, goes to Brockbank's house to tell Elisa that her lover is a pedophile and a real danger to her daughters. She has no plan or chance to capture Brockbank except for Shanker's intervention with a knife. It seems unlikely she would have escaped the apartment without a serious beatdown. As it is, Brockbank scampers away, a la Wormtail. The children are saved, Taxi Driver style, and Robin earns her boss's enmity the way Harry's rescue of Black sends Snape around the twist. Now, again, I bring this up because I really just wanted to tell the Cormoran Strike fans out there that couldn't care less about Harry Potter that they really do need to care about Harry Potter. They probably all read the Harry Potter novels or seen the movies, but for serious strikers, it's almost as if it's a contained world. It's not. The 4th generation of Rowling studies means that you have to include everything that she's written to really get what Cormoran Strike is about. We had a little bit of that yesterday when Nick, you talked about Sean Harris and the importance of the Ron and Hermione relationship reflecting Rowling's platonic relationship, at least in that story. In the story, no, it's not in the story. In real life, but her relationship with Cormoran Strike, Robin's relationship with Cormoran Strike, may be, as you said in your recent post about this, may be just a reflection of her relationship with Sean Harris, her best mate. So
that was epic, John. But I think it is a key. It is this parallel books idea between Harry Potter and the Robert Galbraith series has been a cornerstone of the shed work that Hogwarts Professor has been looking at, and we're at exciting times now because we're now on to book 8.
Yeah. Evan Willis, I think, has the best idea. He says that there are 3 other books that Rowling has written that could qualify for books 8, 9, and 10, and so we're speculating that Casual Vacancy, your favorite book, or your first book at least, is going to be the background novel for Hallmark Man. How she'll pull that off, I have no
on,
idea. I can't.
hold on to your seats, everyone.
The island of Sark is Padbury. I don't see Padford or what. It'll be something.
That's great, John. And what are we looking at tomorrow?
Well, we're on to Goblet of Fire, and I think in Goblet of Fire, I'm gonna talk about alchemy and chiastics. I'm gonna go for two of the big keys in talking about the Triwizard Tournament and how the Triwizard Tournament tasks give us the clue about it being the story turn, that in the ring of the series, the fourth book is the turn. How that parallels 1 and 7, but also how it points to the first 3 books and the last 3 books being a turtleback structure. So it's going to be a lot because it's alchemy and reverse alchemy and the alchemy of the. It's going to be like you're mixing up your buoys or your pillars. I'm gonna be I'm gonna have several tools in here tomorrow to talk about that. If I've recovered from my July 4th celebrations, we'll be up late tonight.
Well, I hope we have a good time tonight. I think tomorrow I'm going to be looking at one of the core beliefs. So the first time we've looked at this series so far.
In Goblet of Fire. I wish
everyone out there a wonderful.
Wait a minute! You're just going to give me the core belief thing? I'm thinking, is it feminism? Is it political activism? We're gonna get the turf thing.
So I think we're looking at anti-bigotry, which I think is where her feminism at its early days. I think that's where the core of that comes from. And there's comic aspects to it, there's serious aspects to it, but
that promises to be great. This is going to be to use the word you used earlier. This is going to be epic. Literary alchemy, chiastic structure, core beliefs. This is going to be a good one.
Enjoy your celebrations, everyone.
All my daddy long legs people they're excited. They're excited.
Okay. Take care, John. I'll see you tomorrow.
Salute.